Welcome back, friends. You're not here by accident, and neither am I. Do you see these mountains behind me? Well, the evidence being uncovered in 2025 leaves no room for doubt anymore. We found Noah's Ark, but there's a worldwide push to subvert and keep many of these findings under wraps. But with social media being what it is today, that's nearly impossible. It's not like 50 years ago, where information could be manipulated and hidden from the masses. Now, I want you to lean in for this one, because what I'm about to share is nothing short of astonishing. For thousands of years, the story of Noah's Ark has been told and retold. A story of judgment, survival, and divine grace. A story so incredible, skeptics dismissed it as myth. But now, brand new scientific findings from eastern Turkey may be pointing us to something world-changing, the actual resting place of the Ark. That's right. After centuries of speculation, researchers may have uncovered evidence that lines up perfectly with the biblical record. Let's begin with what Genesis 8:4 tells us plainly. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. Notice something interesting here. It doesn't say on Mount Ararat, but on the mountains of Ararat, a broader region in ancient Urartu, which today lies in eastern Turkey. For generations, explorers have scoured these mountains, hoping to glimpse the remains of Noah's vessel. And for years, the most compelling sight has been a strange, boat-shaped formation at a place called Durupınar, near Mount Ararat. Long ridiculed, long dismissed, until now. And in 2025, the evidence is becoming so compelling that even skeptics are beginning to rethink their positions. In 2021 and again in 2023, the research team behind the Noah's Ark Scans project used ground-penetrating radar on the Durupınar formation. What did they find? Beneath the soil, clear angular patterns. Not random geology, not just rock, but actual structures that cannot be natural. They found a 13-foot wide tunnel, hall-like corridors throughout, and layered features resembling decks. Friends, this isn't wishful thinking. The radar is painting a picture of a massive structure, buried but intact. And when you overlay those images with the biblical description of a ship with 3 decks, as described in Genesis 6:16, well, the match is chilling to say the least. Now, let's talk about its size. Genesis 6:15 says, "The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits." Now, depending on how you measure the ancient cubit, scholars put the ark at roughly 515 to 525 feet long, based on the Durupınar formation. It measures about 538 feet long. Let that sink in. That's almost identical to the dimensions described in the Bible. Not close, not approximate, but spot on. But it doesn't stop there. This is where the evidence starts piling up and is indisputable. Soil samples from the site revealed chemical anomalies like higher organic carbon content than the surrounding area, elevated potassium levels, and even lower pH than the surrounding ground. That's impossible for something natural or organic. What does this mean? The soil inside the formation is chemically different, as if decaying organic material, perhaps like the ancient wood that once filled this space. And even today in 2025, the vegetation growing across the formation is noticeably different from the plants growing around it. The ground itself seems to bear the scars of a massive wooden structure long buried beneath it. Folks, this new evidence can no longer be ignored, and this is where it really gets good. Critics have long scoffed, calling the formation a natural rock outcrop. But here's the kicker: the site is not just boat-shaped. It's sitting in an area filled with marine sediment and flood-related deposits, fossilized seashells, sedimentary layers consistent with water. Remember, we're up on a mountain. Let that sink in for a moment. What does Genesis say? Genesis 7:19 says, "And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered." The very ground agrees with the ancient text. This area once knew a flood. It was underwater. This evidence is so overwhelming now that to discount this site as just strange and unique is beyond absurd. And now, are you ready for some goosebumps? According to their calculations, the Ark would have come to rest around the year 2347 BC. And the Durupınar site, when dated geologically, shows anomalies consistent with being several thousand years old, lining up with the biblical timeline. And again, the length of the formation, the radar scans, the soil chemistry, the marine fossils, they all harmonize with the Genesis account. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You've heard these claims before, but here's why this is different in 2025 and why all this matters. For the first time, non-invasive current technology is confirming what explorers and locals have suspected for generations. We're not just relying on grainy photos or tall tales. We're looking at hard science, radar, soil chemistry, measurable dimensions. And here's the spiritual kicker. If Noah's Ark is real, and the evidence is mounting that it is, then the flood was real. And we know now that science backs up the claim that once upon a time the whole earth was underwater. And if the flood was real, then the judgment of God is real. And if the judgment of God is real, then so is the salvation offered in Jesus Christ. Look, friends, this isn't just archaeology. This is a wake-up call. You simply can't bury your head in the sand anymore and pretend that the Bible is just a book full of fairy tales, because this fairy tale is proven to be fact, not fiction. Genesis tells us the ark was God's instrument of salvation. And we also know that because of what happened in Genesis 6, that God also used the flood to eliminate a corrupted gene pool on planet Earth. And all of that points us straight to Christ, who is our ark today. Just as Noah and his family were saved through the door of the ark, Jesus said in John 10:9, "I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved." So yes, the latest findings at Durupınar may very well be pointing us to the greatest archaeological discovery of all time. But they're also pointing us to the reality of God's word, every single letter of it. So what will you do with all this truth? The signs are all around us now, and biblical stories continue to baffle science with their authenticity. As we get smarter, our ancient history begins to unfold and reveal that much of what we've been taught and told over the years is simply not true. The pyramids are much older than we ever imagined. The ancient megalithic cities could not have been constructed using ropes and pulleys. And once upon a time, the whole world was underwater. So thank you for joining me today. If you found this episode as compelling and Lean read something new, then please share it with your friends and subscribe for more deep dives into biblical prophecy and history. And most importantly, stay ready, stay watchful, and stay anchored in the Word. Until next time, God bless you.